Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 651. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, drnorge. I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, the Duke of the Sultan of Strategery, the indestructible bridge-defying, is concerned that Sean asked him to drink a cup full of necrosis to see what would happen when he says Shazam. So says the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to be talking about Black Adam #1 and Dark Crisis Young Justice #1. Also, I want to quickly wish you a happy birthday, which would have been yesterday, based on when we're recording this. So happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Jim, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
We always talk about the great comic book deals, but remember, they're not just a great place for comics. They've got T-shirts, apparel, statues, and whatnot. And right now, I'm looking at the officially licensed Mego action figures for Black Adam, Green Arrow, Batman Beyond, Deathstroke, Ra's al Ghul, and, of course, Shazam!
That Green Arrow is sweet. That Green Arrow is so sweet, because I've got the other one, but this one's a hooded Green Arrow. So sweet.
And they're all 20% off the pricing. So they're ranging from $13.59 up to $15.99, depending on the character. So these are a great deal if you've ever thought about jumping into the new Migos right here. DCBS has got you covered. So thank you, DCBS.
One thing I also want to remind people is it's the end of the month, and sometimes when there's that end of the month switchover, you might pass the order deadline. Reach out to DCB Service. I've always found they're very amenable to add things onto your order from the previous month if they're still able to order them. So I've done that before. I'm like, oh, geez, I didn't know that was a thing, especially things like these Mego action figures. And you get them added onto your order, and they're really, really good about getting that. So if you pass the order date, reach out and ask if it's possible. They'll usually add them onto the next month's order. Over at InStockTrades.com, they have the deals of the week, which we have the 100 Bullets Omnibus Hardcover Volume 2. Such a great series. 125 regularly, 50% off, only $62.50. Another book on the deals of the week that I really want to shout out that has my highest possible recommendation. Question by Dennis O'Neil and Dennis Cohen. It's $99 regularly, 50% off, only $49.99. This is an amazing series. If you somehow miss this, pick it up this way to catch that, and this great volume is the only way to get it. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Jim, it's time for a new contest. And actually, it's fitting that your birthday was yesterday because this next contest really does revolve around you. And it's funny, you threw this out in one of our discussions about being a topic, and I had this one percolate in the back of my head too, but I like the way you framed it up. So we're going to do a spoiler warning contest. It's going to run from today, July 3rd, 2022, till September 3rd, 2022. Here's what you need to do, and you have a couple options. Create a spoiler warning and send it to us. Be Jim. Take over that role. Jim's known for his wacky spoiler warnings. Send it to us through email to ragingbullets@gmail.com or leave it on our voicemail line, 1-440-388-4434 or drnorge on Skype. We would love you to be a part of this contest. Or if you're like, I don't want to record one myself, I'm just not comfortable doing it, but I have a great idea for it, write a spoiler warning for Jim. We'll accept that as well. Couple ways to enter. And same thing, send it to us via email or go ahead and send it to us in our voicemail line. We want you to participate. Make sure to include your contact information so we can enter you in the contest. The first prize is going to be a book of your choice for a normal hardcover or trade from the September previews. Plus, we'd love to have you on the show. So we'd like you to join us for a spot on the show where you can choose the book that we're going to talk about together. If you don't want to join us, you can choose the segment topic. And that'd be for people like, guys, again, being on a podcast isn't my thing, but I'll choose the segment topic. This is what I'd like you guys to talk about. We'd prefer to have you, though, so that's our goal. Second and third prize are going to be the same thing. We want this to be something where people can walk out with a book of their choice, because, it's all about celebrating comics, right? But we'd like to have you a part of the show. So you've got from July 3rd till September 3rd. Go ahead and start sending those entries in whenever you get them in place. We would love to start airing them as soon as we get them. But I think it's going to be a fun contest. And Jim, great idea. I like this one. So speaking of a spoiler warning, Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Please participate in this contest. I've had to listen to that for 651 episodes. I'm joking, Jim. You know I love you. All right, anyway, let's talk some comics.
A scarlet costume ejects from his ring, and in a blur of motion, police scientist Barry Allen becomes the Flash.
Hey, Jim, I want to shout out first James William Stubbs and Jared Cardos for posting some cool content for us for Speeding Bullets. We're doing it a little earlier this week because of the fact that we're not actually recording on the weekend. We're recording midway through the week to make sure that we have an episode for you. But one of the first things is James posted an article about DC Black Label books, and it was an article focusing on, are these books in continuity or not? And it was an opinion article. But it was really cool because a lot of it largely matched kind of my thinking that, some of them aren't, some of them can be, and they reference Killing Joke, which is a great example of a book that Killing Joke by Alan Moore. I don't know that Alan Moore necessarily wrote it with the intention of wanting it to be in continuity. He was trying to write his Joker story, and it was one of those books that it became, because it was such a powerful and impactful story, it became in continuity. And I think Black Label isn't beholden to continuity. The article's really interesting, and I don't want to totally paraphrase it here because I have my own opinions that would then bleed into it. But I think Black Label is always going to be one of those labels where I think there's going to be things that can be in continuity. I think there's going to be things that directly feel like they're in continuity, and then things that are so blatantly Elseworlds. But then you sit there and go, but if they're their own world, is that a world in a multiverse? And does that put it in continuity? So there's a lot of different ways to look at this, and I think a lot of that's going to be driven by the popularity of the material. I think the White Knight stuff, I think eventually, if it's not already considered in continuity, is going to be considered in Earth, right? That's going to have to be at some point, especially if it continues on. That has to be, if it's not already labeled, it has to be, right?
I was always treating the White Knight Earth as a separate Earth.
Right.
Because they're building way too much into that. It's got to be its own. So it's not actually our Earth, but it's out there. It's in the multiverse. It's an actual Earth out there. And I think, I don't know if they're giving it a number or if they're giving it a letter or how they're doing the multiverse after all of Dark Crisis is done. We will see. So, but it's definitely for me, it's definitely a separate Earth, another part of the multiverse.
But the article, I'm not going to totally go through, and obviously I'm sharing some of my own opinions. You're sharing some of your own opinions, and then we shared a few bits and pieces from the article. Definitely go read it. It's in our Facebook group, and thank you, James, for posting that. Season 3 of DC's Harley Quinn is premiering on HBO Max July 28th. I loved the first 2 seasons. I love that we're getting a spinoff with Kite Man. To me, more Harley Quinn is a good thing. That was one. I look back to our original conversation around season 1. I remember the first episode being, I don't know if I like this, which is odd for me. And then after I finally got it, with episode 2 and episode 3, I really got into that first season and then fell in love with this series. So any of my initial concerns about it not only faded away, but I completely rubber banded in the other direction, getting into the charm and the love of the series. This is one that's high on your list too, right?
Oh, big time. Yeah. Especially Kite Man. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kite Man has stolen the show for me, and it was one of those characters when they first introduced him, I was like, oh my God. Eventually I'm right along with him, going, yeah, all right. And just, I feel bad for the guy for everything that happened to him. But again, he's making it work because he's Kite Man.
So then, and Jared also posted a new trailer for Gotham Knights, which is totally focused on the character of Robin. And being that this is a team, where you can be multiple members of Batman's, you can make a choice of a member of Batman's sidekicks, because Batman's dead in this game. I love that they're doing these character-focused trailers, giving you more of an idea of the gameplay, his voice, some of his customizations. Jared actually said, this is actually interesting, he said this is one of the characters that he was least interested to play as, he said after seeing the trailer, he thinks it still looks fun, which is a good sign. Whereas I'm a Robin fan. I want to play as Robin. It's an interesting sort of dynamic where I think there's going to be characters with different presentations and different play styles that, to Jared's point, you may be going in focused on one character or, a couple characters that are your favorites that you're really interested in playing as. I think that's what will make the game more accessible to a wider variety of people. If you're going to play together as a team or have an opportunity to play with multiple people, you don't want everyone vying for the same character. So there should be different play styles, different reasons for playing as characters that come out of this. I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be a great game. I hope, to his point, I hope it delivers based on what it looks like, and I hope that it's going to be, because I'm ready for another Batman game to be out there. Mm-hmm. And this idea of a squad-based Batman game, I think I love Team Batman. I love the concept of the Robins getting together, Batgirl, Batwoman, characters like that having a chance to shine is something that I think is really going to hopefully be a selling point of this. I hope it delivers. And so far, the studios have been doing these Batman games have been delivering. So I'm optimistic.
Now, I haven't had a chance to actually watch the trailer yet. Mm-hmm. This is Damien, correct?
No.
It's Tim.
It's Tim.
Ooh, okay. Because I was just looking at the picture, the initial image, and I was like thinking, okay, that's Damien. That's Tim.
So I just watched the trailer again, mainly for the purpose of you. I think you're asking a good question. They never identify that it's Tim. My reason for assuming it's Tim is I played the other Arkham games, and that was Tim in the Arkham games.
Yeah.
So that's my assumption. And listening to the trailer, at least the presentation sounds a lot like it's going to be Tim.
That's got to be Tim because it's way too positive, way too upbeat.
Yeah, we have. So, what it looks like, and there's Dick Grayson, we have Red Hood, we have Batgirl, we have Tim. The other characters are going to be in it, but that's what it looks like to me. It was a good question, and that's why I wanted to ask off of that. Wanted to double check just to be clear on that one. You know what I listened to this week? I'm 2 episodes in right now to Batman Unburied, that Spotify podcast. And David S. Goyer has an involvement behind the scenes in that. It's put together by, it looks like the same studio that's doing the HBO Max, that did that 10 episode thing on HBO Max. This, though, let me be very clear. This is for mature audiences. This is definitely something, if you're going to listen in the car with the kids, just be sure. Because and it's not all about dropping F-bombs. It's not that. It's the story. The story you are listening to Dr. Bruce Wayne, forensic pathologist. He's investigating a serial killer known as the Harvester, who harvests organs ritual style. Thomas and Martha are alive, and they're worried about, Thomas in particular, but Martha as well, are worried about him. Bruce, in his role as a forensic pathologist, uses empathy to connect to the victims, so he takes on the role of the victim in order to recreate the crime scene, to try and determine what's happening. And they talk about there's a yearly limit of how many, or there's a certain limit as far as how many victims that you should be doing at a certain point in time. And Bruce has already well exceeded that in a month. Yeah. And this is Elseworlds at its best, but I'm going to put quotes around Elseworlds because at the end of episode 2, now I'm I thought I was listening to one thing, and now it puts into question what is really going on with Bruce, what is psychologically happening to Bruce. There's been no Batman, but he's hearing bats.
Nice.
And he's meeting with a psychologist based on his father's recommendation because the Harvester knows he's hunting for him, meaning that he's investigating him. I shouldn't say hunting for him because he's not Batman. This is a Dr. Bruce Wayne who could become Batman. But at the end of episode 2, I'm there's things that come up at the end of episode 2. I'm not going to spoil them. That made me go, okay, all bets are off now on what's actually happening here. And I love that.
Nice.
The cast is phenomenal. And if you like crime drama, this is for you. It actually listens like it's a Black Label book. It's so well produced. I'm 2 episodes in. I'm going to plow through the rest of them because I just want to get to the end of this thing and find out what's going to happen next. And I adore the fact that there's going to be a season 2. Spotify, like, I've got a free Spotify account. So if you don't have Spotify, go to Spotify, sign up for this. It's Batman Unburied. You can add this if you have an iPhone or an Android phone or whatever. You can add this to your playlist and add the episodes and download them to your phone or your iPad or device. You can listen to it on your computer through a Spotify account on there. So, I mean, there's a lot of different options and flexibility as far as whatever kind of device that you've got to listen to this. But don't miss this. It is edgy. Like I said, it's not about swearing. When I say it's mature, it's the story that's mature. This Harvester character is a creepy villain, a very creepy villain. Harvest Origins, and I actually don't. Here's what I don't want to tell you. I don't want to tell you like what his MO is totally because I want you to experience it. But it's woo. If you liked the Batman movie, this is like that kind of edgy detective story. So it's that. So I wanted to shout it out because I can't recommend this enough. I literally listened to the 2 episodes today. And I was like, oh, it'd be nice to listen to this and at least report on, do I see myself listening to it again? See myself listening to the rest of it. It's like, I want us to wrap up here so I can go listen to more. It's literally that good. I will pass up television to listen to this at home, which awesome. Normally audio dramas like that are like when I'm not trying to get caught up on television. Tonight, when I'm done, I'm listening to this. It's that good. Definitely. It's Spotify again, free account. So for anybody that's out there, it's easy to add it. You can create your own queue, and it works you through it. Like you search for Batman Unburied. It lets you hit the plus sign, add it to your list. Then the episodes are downloadable. So if you're like, I don't want to be using my cellular data for this, you can download it on Wi-Fi to your phone and have them on there, all 10, and it will just continue playing through them until you're done. It tracks your progress. So like when you're partway through like episode 2, you can continue where you left off when you next are on your drive or whatever. It's really intuitive that way, and I prefer when platforms do that. Really good stuff.
Oh no, you don't.
Our first discussion is on Black Adam #1, the story by Priest, art by Rafael Sandoval, colors by Matt Herms, letters Willie Schubert, cover by Irvin Rodriguez, variant covers by Rafa Sandoval or Matt Herms, Lucio Perillo, Mikhail Janin, Crystal Kuhn, Cully Hammer, Travis Mercer, Danny Mickey, and Brad Anderson. Associate editor Chris Rosa, and editor Paul Kaminsky. And as always, apologies to the name butchering, especially to the art team, because I really messed them up.
And this is a great book. And Christopher Priest is somebody who, my first real foray into knowing who Christopher Priest was. It wasn't my first Christopher Priest story, but he did a terrific run for Marvel on Black Adam that just became a classic. And fans really rallied behind, and I'm one of them, where it was just mind-blowing what he was doing to move forward, how we look at a lot of the Black Panther movie. I almost said Black Adam. A lot of the Black Panther movie, I think a lot of the great elements of it came from the work of Christopher Priest. So, or at least spiritually, has been a successor to that, if you would, or inspired. I guess by that is probably a better way to put it. This takes place before Dark Crisis. Way cool. I didn't know what to expect from this, and the only bummer for me on this one is 1 of 12.
Yeah.
No, ongoing, please. And and here's the thing. I hope this is a proof of concept to potentially a Black Adam ongoing, because I really enjoyed this out of the gate. What I didn't expect is seeing him both in and out of the Black Adam form. I didn't expect to see Teth Adam. And it was cool to be able to see him in both presentations. It was definitely a cool thing. My favorite parts of it are, and it's one of the things I think we both like about the character, is you see the cocky side of Black Adam, but you also see the nobility to him. And there is a heroic side to him. And there's like a heroic determination, which is hard to... there's something to him. It's hard to avoid that. This is clearly like you and I both fell in love with Black Adam during New 52. I loved the character beforehand, but there was something in New 52 special with what they did with the character. Or 52, I'm sorry. I not New 52. 52, the weekly series where they really explored the character and really had a chance to do some expansive storytelling with them. So we got 52 weeks of these shifting stories with Black Adam, and I feel like this is very reminiscent of what I liked about him there. And I don't know if you felt or got that vibe from it, but this was like, yes, this is like more progression of that character and what I liked about him, and I want more of this.
Yeah, I think when this first, when I first saw Black Adam series, I was thinking ongoing, like, oh no, it's unlimited, dang it. But I was like, okay, ongoing, limited maybe will lead to ongoing.
Sure.
And it was funny because I asked myself, okay, what do you want from this, Jim? I'm like, what I wanted was a really cool Black Adam story, but also I wanted to see, because, I like him as Black Adam, but I also like him as the leader of Kahndaq. Mm-hmm. I always loved that duality when they did that. And you mentioned 52 because they really did show that. He actually cared about his people. He wasn't a conqueror. He wasn't a maniacal monster who was slaughtering women and children. No, he actually was protecting them. And actually, he was taking care of his people. And I love that side of it. And I'm like, I wanted more of that kind of stuff. So, when this issue opens with him with the UN, I'm like, oh, cool. That's awesome. Because these are the kind of stuff that I'm like, I wanted to see the political intrigue. Now, the funny thing is, the one thing I told myself, the one thing I wouldn't want is I wouldn't want a new Black Adam. And if they're going to do a new Black Adam, I certainly wouldn't want it to be an American. I'd want it to be some kid from Kahndaq who rises up and, and I had, those kind of thoughts. But I was like, they wouldn't do that. Black Adam's too popular. They're not going to replace him. And lo and behold, we get, The funny thing is, the strength of this story is that the stuff I didn't want to happen looks like it's happening, and I still love the story. I still love this. I still want to read issue 2. I want to see where this goes. But everything I said I wouldn't want that to happen, I'm seeing that it's happening.
Except this takes place before. This takes place before the death of Justice League.
I know.
So does it? I guess my question is, does it, or is it more complicated than that? Are we going to get our own version of Black Adam Jr.? Are we going to get where is this going?
Right.
Or is there some? Is this all 12 issues going to predate Death of Justice League, or is at some point in time is it going to jump past it? Because it's 12 issues, so that the fact that the initial first issue takes place before Death of Justice League doesn't mean the whole 12-issue series has to.
Exactly. No, I agree. But it was funny because, so that's why I'm like, I don't know where this is going to go, but it's a really great story. And I was absolutely loving the story, even though right before starting reading this, I said, I wouldn't want this, or this happening, and that's happening. And I'm like, okay, but this is still a great story. So it's kind of like the strength of what the story I'm getting, where I'm sitting back saying, okay, because I'm all in on this thing. I'm 100% all in on this. I want to see where this goes. And like, as you said, to your point, we don't know by issue 12 what's going to happen. Right. Maybe the kid will be Black Adam Jr. Maybe he won't be around at all. Maybe, Teth will be, maybe Adam will be Adam and everything will be fine. We don't know that. I think that's the coolness of this because, like you said, this character had a lot of those qualities of the Adam I loved. Yeah. I love the fact that he's sitting there and Washington, D.C. is grilling him and this and that, and he's just like, you know what? I am bored. I'm leaving now. And like, we're something like, no, I could kill every one of you in this room. That's why John's here. But I love the fact that he knew that Martian Manhunter was sitting right there waiting for him just in case he powered up. I absolutely love that. Now, the other thing I thought was really neat was, as you said, I didn't expect to see him out of Black Adam form.
Right.
Because they've told stories where if he powers down, he starts rapidly aging. He goes back to his original age, and you think about how old he is, he can't power down. So I like the fact that he's able to power down or able to assume this non-powered form. And I did air quotes around non-powered because I do question whether he actually doesn't have any powers in this form, because he is Black Adam and he is awesome. So he's, no matter what form he's in, he's still going to kick some butt. So, but it was a really neat concept. And again, I love just just how they played this off. It was a really cool, it's a neat way to look at Adam. And again, as I said, a story that's laying out stuff I didn't want, but makes me go, this is awesome, tells you quality right there.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of those things where I didn't know I wanted this. And they're giving it to me in a way that I didn't know I wanted. And I love that. I like when they've nailed... That's why it's really important for a writer to know the character. If you know the character and you deliver to me a story that is veering off from what I thought I wanted, then I completely get lost in your story because of the fact that you're delivering me the character I want and then challenging me. And that's what he's doing here. He's like, all right, let me give you everything that let me give you the core basics. Let me give you the foundation. Let me give you the pieces that are non-negotiable. Then I'm going to go to school. I'm going to take you to school. Yeah. And this feels so much like that. And I love that. It's bold. And one of the things I really love about miniseries now, and we see other writers like Tom King, for example, really does this well with his miniseries, where he'll take unique characters, really play with them. Mr. Miracle, he's done this with. He did it with Adam Strange. Where these miniseries are not throwaways; they are just the opposite. They're must-reads, and they challenge you. Black Adam's falling in that category of the better miniseries that are out there. Like, this is one I want to make noise because Christopher Priest is just rocks. And I love that this, to me, showcases the best of Christopher Priest. His understanding of character, his understanding of intrigue and politics, and how to bring politics in while still giving you strong superhero storytelling and strong character development. It really is a very, very edgy book that challenges me. And I love that. I love the battle with Darkseid, where you see him, kicking with his Shazam, and you realize he hurt himself in that process. Hurt himself in a way that is problematic because there's lasting effects to what he's done here. How much of that did Desaad know was going to happen? Did Desaad lead him into this trap? Did Desaad set him up like this, or is there something different going on? I don't know. But because, Desaad's ability to deceive certainly should not be minimized in this. But I loved that it wasn't really Darkseid. It was a fake that was super convincing. And I loved seeing that opening battle. I loved that it was Desaad, and I loved Black Adam's handling of it.
And again, one of the neat things, I liked how they showed his one arm having that infection or whatever it is.
Yeah.
After he powered back up, and then just a little subtle stuff of like him wheezing, that slight wheeze in his voice as he calls down the power of Shazam again. It was a neat little, again, cool art and story touches being told that will play out even more dramatically later on. Then if you go back to him, appearing before Congress and his hand is wrapped up, and if in the beginning of the book, his hand was wrapped up. So it was like, oh, okay, cool. It was those neat little connections that I saw. That I was like, oh, okay, I'm glad they did that. It's that the story elements. When you have the story and the art working really well together. And it's the little stuff that you catch on your second and third read throughs, and maybe you catch it on your first read through if you pay attention. But I really dig that kind of stuff.
Right, and you're right. It's nice where you go back to the story and you're catching little tiny subtle details. That's something that this book is definitely filled with, is tiny subtle details that I guess are more character charm. I like the idea as it's jumping through to Washington, D.C., Black Adam, because of his power, because of his involvement in the world and the political scene, he's developed loyal people, loyal allies, loyal people that are following him, loyal people that believe in him. And he has contacts. We don't get to see that prefaced a lot, but it would make sense as a ruler of a country, he would have those supporters to this level. And I really liked seeing that element brought into this story. That there are people that can go into the public, give him information, fill him in on things that he otherwise couldn't see. Like, even being at the hospital, Yeah. I found the guy Nassar came to see. Not that it makes any sense, and he's able to be his eyes and ears when, if he walks in there, everyone's going to know it's him.
Yep.
So it's smart, and that's something that we haven't seen play out a lot in Black Adam storytelling. And if you're going to turn this into an extended story, and hopefully it's popular enough that it leads to more than that, this is how you do it.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's funny because when they started introducing the character, and I was laughing just how, his basic introduction, because here he is, he's the doctor for this white supremacist, and I was like, man, that is awesome. And I love how he just was playing, he was messing with the guy, he was enjoying himself, and I'm like, go for it, dude. I'm cool with that.
Right.
But the thing is, he still was treating him though. Right. That for me is an important thing, because you're going to run into that, and as a doctor, you've got to treat the people who hate you, so it was kind of neat to see that.
The interesting piece is Adam comes in on scene, and, he's talking about the fact that he's immortal, and I love that he carries himself like he's immortal. Like, there's interesting elements of what I like about the Shade are present when he's just Tough Adam. I like what he's saying, they shouldn't mind waiting. King Tut, Prince, Scooby-Doo, everybody waits their turn these days. And I like how he's crushing the larynx of the white supremacist going, I see, is it my turn now? And I love that the kid is not rising to the occasion. He's like sitting here saying, oh, please, what are you trying to do? I mean, I really love that the kid has got a little bit of a backbone to him. And the kid has to be likable at the moment. Whether or not we're going to feel that way all the way through this story or not, I don't know, because this can go in a lot of directions. But the kid is intriguing me. When I say likable, I want to know more about the kid. And that's an important piece of this. If you make him totally disinteresting and you don't care about him at all at this point, or care about knowing more about him, then you've lost the premise of this, where this particular arc's going.
And I do like the fact that he was sitting there and he's, standing up to Black Adam and not letting anything get to him. But he's like, he does though say, let me see it. See what? Your hand. That's a bad burn. I can smell it. Again, he's a doctor.
Right.
He is going to treat the wounded. He is going to treat the injured. And I thought, for me, that was another neat little side. He's cracking jokes. He's being, his own personality. He's got his own backbone, his own strength, whatever you want to call it. But he still does, he still is going to care for the injured, care for the wounded, and all that. So that was something I liked seeing, moved in with his personality, moved in with the comical side piece, or however you want to describe it. There was still that serious level to it. So I was like, those are the kind of stuff that really connected to me to him within within 2 pages. I was like, okay, this kid seems pretty cool.
The interesting piece was, Teth was under the assumption that, hey, I switched back to Black Adam and everything's going to be good. I'll be healed again. Just the opposite. The necrosis has increased and has taken over exponentially, a much higher volume. And the pain that it causes him when he transforms is just astronomical. Really, really cool to see that this is a story where he's a ticking time bomb. And he has to figure out what to do about that. He's basically writing himself off, but I don't think that's the whole story. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, it was neat when the police pull him in because of his potential connection to the dead body, and again, his friend bails him out, and it's you see who this kid is, what he's dealing with. This is a med student. This is a smart kid. This is, we've seen already that he does have a compassion to him. He's had his histories, so he's dealing with, these problems and these personal moments. And I'd like to see him and Jasmine. I was like, again, within one page, you understood who he was. You understood where he's coming from. But there's a deeper level to this. There's a deeper level to him and Jasmine. There's a deeper level to what he's dealing with and how he's going to handle this. They did a brilliant job introducing this character. And again, remember when I said, going into this book, I said I didn't want an American involved with this. And again, the reason I didn't want that was I wanted a kid from Kahndaq. I wanted a kid, who was, basically the street rat who is surviving, whose loyalty is to Kahndaq. And I wanted to see that kind of, character and that persona grow up, but all that went out the window when I got to meet him, when I got to see this kid, when I got to read about him. I was like, for me, as I said at the beginning, that to me is why this story creation impressed me so much, because I'm like, yes, I love this kid. More, please.
Yeah, and that's pretty important when, the kids being hit from multiple avenues as far as trying to bring him in, have him be a part of Kahndaq and leading Kahndaq and being realized that he was being recruited to be on the other side of the fence, leading a revolution against Black Adam.
Yeah. And
instead, Teth Adams is like, you're my kid, my rightful heir. And I'm trying to give that to you. And we see a rare moment, rare situation where you see it's very rare that you see Black Adam weak. To see him with those weaknesses was a pretty cool ending of this.
Now, here's a question for you.
Uh-huh.
You said something there. You said he's his kid. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's actually the kid. He's a descendant. Remember,
oh, that's true. Yeah.
Adam is how old?
Yeah.
He may not be a kid. He could be some great or something like that.
Sure.
He's just in the bloodline.
Sure. That's good. Excellent point. You're right. And I have zero argument with that. The kid is, we're in total agreement. That kid is some form of descendant. Of Black Adam. Whether it's a direct descendant, meaning, his direct kid, or a direct descendant because of years of generational descendants. That part, I'm happy to find out what that is. But I love this approach. I like the character. I like the kid. At the end of this, I kind of tipped my hat earlier on to I don't know if it's what I want from it or what at least I'm thinking is happening with this. I think I see him becoming Black Adam Jr. before I see him permanently becoming Black Adam. I love that there's that suspension of disbelief where I feel like Black Adam's in real danger. I feel like there's a possibility he could be replaced here. And I want to see where that story goes.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping that by the end we have Black Adam Jr. or actually a different code name, because I can't see this guy accepting that code name. As I said, I'm all in on this now. I'm 100% backing this kid. So if he ends up being the new Black Adam, okay, let's do it. But again, I don't know how they're going to handle that with everything going on with Dark Crisis, because Adam's still around Dark Crisis. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I wonder, though, if this series doesn't at some point in time leapfrog that. The first, perhaps is the first six issues before and the last 6 issues after. And I don't know. So, I mean, I see that possibility. It doesn't mean that that's how it's going to go. I'm intrigued. This was what I wanted was exactly. Here's what I deep down wanted. What I wanted is what I did get from this. I wanted a Black Adam series where I was like, man, that was cool. And first issue, man, that was cool.
Yeah.
You won't get away from me this time, Buster.
Our next discussion is going to be of Dark Crisis Young Justice #1. Megan Fitzmartin is the writer. Laura Braga is the artist. Luis Guerrero on colors. Pat Brousseau on letters. Max Dunbar and Luis Guerrero on the cover. Todd Nook and Matt Herms on the variant cover. Dave Wheelgoes is the editor. Ben Abernathy's the group editor. Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Superboy created by Jerry Siegel by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. Huge Young Justice fan. I loved every issue of Young Justice. The idea of there being some form of revisit to Young Justice was great. This being a Dark Crisis tie-in was so perfect because I feel like it gave me hope for some of our heroes. The Justice League that are quote-unquote dead.
Yep.
Because I think what's happening to Young Justice is mirroring perhaps what I think is happening to the Justice League. And again, it's me making guesswork off of this, but I think what we've seen in the recent issue of The Flash, we've seen in this, I think we are seeing glimpses of what could be potentially happening to the rest of the Justice League. At least I hope. Regardless, I love this story because of the strong character development. Because what it's doing is it's taking some characters that have been dropped back into the DC universe in various capacities, like Impulse, the Connor Kent Superboy. Explain where they're at now. Explain why they're back, but also what happened to them in continuity. You know, they both aged at one point in time. They both died at one point in time. Though they're both back, and it's interesting to see, how that story's going. It's great to see the band back together. Those three originally being pushed, and then, we've even got Arrowette, who is one of my favorite characters from Young Justice, who's basically, I'm out, guys. I am out. Like, I'm willing to be here as a courtesy, but I'm not donning a costume again to go and do this. This isn't my gig anymore. And I really, really love that. I love the characters. The idea that these are the heroes, they all in their own way are the heroes that have been lost in the shuffle, right? Tim Drake as Robin's been shelved for a while. Like, he's appeared in short stories, he's appeared in specials, but hasn't been an ongoing participant except for that Great Detective Comics run where he was a part of the team. We've got Connor Kent Superboy that again has made some special appearances, but he's been back. But we're in a world now where Superman has a kid. We have Supergirl. How many super-powered supermen do you need? And he's been trying to find his place. And Impulse has gotten lost for similar reasons. The fact that there's always 87 billion Flashes, and I like that. It sounds like it's a knock. The opposite. I love the Flash family. I love that concept. But Bart hasn't quite been brought into the forefront of that yet. And Cassie, because we've got Donna, we've got Diana, we've got Hippolyta was taking on a role, and now we have a new Wonder Girl. Where does she fit into all this? So these really are the disenfranchised characters. And Arrowette is easy enough to forget because there hasn't been a vehicle for her to be on the scene. Ollie had a Miko most recently in her run. So, great book to talk about these characters and where they've been at when they go and vanish, and they're taken back to this ideal world where it was their time to shine. They were the heroes. Alfred's there. We've got Double X's there. We've got Bart working again with Wally and Max. Again, it's all a travel back in time to when they were actually the originally Young Justice. It lends me to just a lot of questions about what's really happening in Dark Crisis to our heroes.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you, one of the things I loved about this was how, one, it's in, Cassie is the main, it's coming from her point of view on looking at her friends, and she's got anger issues towards it. It's part of the whole grieving process. I loved how they really did dive into these three, especially, as you said, they've been lost in the shuffle. Three great characters who had their ups and downs and continuity and whatnot, and they're kind of bringing them back into the fold with this. And the thing I loved was, as she's going through and she's talking about them, I love the fact that she brought up the kiss between her and Tim.
Yep.
Because that was a moment I absolutely love. And again, the artist, again, caught it beautifully where it's got them crying while kissing. Because both of them hated that they did that because they really kissed because Connor was dead, and just that emotion and all that stuff that was building up. And I loved that story when that played out. So seeing this here, and the fact that she's like, and something I hope Connor never finds out about was the comment along with that. I'm like, oh, that is awesome. I absolutely love that. And it was kind of neat to see them, in the original costumes, and by original, you're looking at the Superboy, his costume. It wasn't just the Connor Kent T-shirt costume. Impulse has got his Impulse outfit on. Tim, that's always been his Robin costume. It's never really been any changes. But again, I like seeing them in their original costumes in the present, and then when they get jumped back into the past. It was kind of a nice thing where you can tell the three of them are trying to figure out who they are, what they're doing. And the fact that they so easily just flowed right into this alternate life, past life, whatever this is, really does show how they're at a loss. The Alfred moment was absolutely wonderful. He's like, Alfred, you're alive. What's going on? And he's in costume. Connor with Double-X and Bart. Just the first thing Bart does is he runs around the planet. He runs around the Earth and identifying where he's at, what's going on. Makes his way to the headquarters and sees them there as well. They're like, okay, this is what's going on. We're back, And it was a neat just idea and a concept. I was like, this is awesome. I could, like with Barry, we understand why Barry is so comfortable with where he got put, because that's like a perfect life for him. These three are back to where they had their perfect life. And I was so happy to see that.
Yeah. Even their costumes have shifted because Tim Drake's costume shifted back to the old costume. It's interesting to see that go back to the certain era. When Connor Kent is talking about his shirt, I love this shirt. I miss this shirt. He's acknowledging the fact that this is a step back in time for him. Yep. And it was really cool to see that. So these three have been, feel similarly transported to a time where they're shining again. And that starts to become, you fight against it initially because it doesn't make sense, but then it starts to get comfortable. And what do you do then? When, this is an old pair of shoes that not only does it feel comfortable, I kind of like wearing them. And then you start to realize I really like wearing them. And what do you do then?
Yeah.
It's enticing, and it's touching on a concept. I think we've all said at one point in time it'd be nice to go back, right?
Oh, yeah.
But, the question becomes, do you want to go back to visit for a day? Or do you want to live there? And there's a difference between the two. Huge difference between the two. It's intriguing, when you take a look at your present and then take a look at your past and what you give up in both cases. But even the villain that they fight was so taken from that era. And I love that they're plopping us back in an era where the Mighty Endowed is and they're both trying, yeah, I remember this now. This was weird. And even Connor's line of, not enough therapy in the world for this, I thought was great. It was such a great sequence.
Well, and I like that she was tweaked as well.
Yep.
She was a little different. And they even noticed, hey, she wasn't this intense last time. What's going on here? But they're still pulled back into it. It wasn't just, just as they're starting to identify differences, starting to identify things that are a little bit off in this world, the action continues and the action pulls in. And then also they get their backup of Wonder Girl arriving just to keep the momentum going, keep the illusion going. So it's like there's somebody else who, there's a puppet master behind this. And again, as you said before, this is a lot of stuff similar happening to probably what's happening to the current Justice League, who are dead. And I did air quotes around dead. And we know what's going on with Barry. It's the same kind of power manipulation of these heroes. And I got to think that's kind of the play on it. And it's neat to see Cassie not just accept it. The real Cassie, not the time travel or illusion Cassie, whatever she is. And And she's going to all the different heroes, and you can understand why those heroes aren't really listening to her, because you think about it. Bart's grieving. He's with Tim. He's safe. Oh, Connor, he's with Tim. He's safe. Tim's with, Tim needs his time. He's with his friends. He'll be okay. Tim can take care of himself. I love the fact that these heroes rationalize that these heroes took off for a little bit and they're off the radar right now.
Well, and they're also rationalizing the fact that they're prioritizing what they consider to be higher priority issues. Like right now, Wally's hunting for Barry, and his team's hunting for Barry. John is in over his head. In Bloodhaven, Tim is in with a lot of work that's going on. There's a number, like the holes that have been left by Batman and by Superman, respectively, are huge holes to fill. Yeah. So it's not that they don't care. It's that they're like, here's the question, Cassie. Are they really in trouble? Do they just need space? And if they just need space, how do I pull myself away from what I'm doing now? When, yes, I care. Yes, I want to be there, but... do I stop going for Barry Allen? Do I stop filling in for Superman? Do I stop with the big issues that I'm taking care of in Bloodhaven to go and do this in the moment when I really think they just need space?
Yep. I like that. Yeah, I agree. And again, I like the fact that Cassie knows there's something wrong and she's going to be looking for her friends.
Right.
So that for me was like this story just hit on so many levels of yes. These characters, all are making 100% to who they are, especially the three. You could see very easily why these three would get so pulled into this world. This was the greatest time of their life. They're 100% going to get pulled into it, but they're still themselves and they're noticing the little differences. And just like, next issue, I'm looking forward to them dealing with Cassie of this time, and seeing how they notice changes in her. If she's not the true, Wonder Girl, that's going to start, building. It's going to start breaking down their connection to this world, and them starting to look at how do we get back home? How do we get back to our real home? And that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking forward to seeing with these three, because eventually they are going to let go of this world. Eventually they have to. They've got to come home. But that process of what brings it about, what takes them home, what is the motivation?
Well, and this thing, well, don't worry, guys, somebody's coming to our rescue. They mean somebody's coming to our rescue to bring us back home, but here's the problem. Cassie being there now?
Yep.
I'm sorry, and when I say Cassie being there now, it's the next issue saying A Tale of Two Cassies, I think is accurate. That's not Cassie.
Right. That's this world, this universe is Cassie, not the real one.
Right. It's like the cartoon universe that Barry's in.
Yes.
Is how I'm looking at this.
Yeah, we're looking at it the exact same way, man. And I think it's the same people. And I think
it's Pariah.
Yeah, I think he pulls energy from this, from these actions, from keeping them in these little fantasy worlds. He pulls energy for whatever he's doing.
He's a hope parasite.
Yes.
What at least, and he's pulling off of their hope.
Yeah, exactly.
So this Cassie being there is, again, just increasing the level of hope.
Yeah, especially for Connor.
Yeah,
because you think about it, this was the Cassie that he and those two had their thing going. So that's going to be curious to see how that plays out.
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's this Dark Crisis. I didn't know what to expect from it. There's still an ongoing mystery to it. I think we're getting clues and feel like we're getting closer to things, but I feel like there's more surprises to be had along the way. I love the way they're doing these tie-ins, sometimes where it's happening in books like The Flash, other times it's happening like this. Other times there's like almost side stories, people like Black Adam. I don't know how you classify that, because it's not a black label, a Dark Crisis. I'm sorry, it's not a black label. It's not a Dark Crisis tie-in per se, but yet it's fleshing out the story of another character that's part of Death of Justice League. Yep. And I really love that. The DC Universe is really hitting it high for me right now. I'm glad, because I feel like everything I'm reading is just making me excited. It's been a while since I've felt like this. Like every month I've had books that have excited me, and I'm multiple books that have excited me. But it's been a while where I feel like my problem right now is, what am I jumping to first? Because everything's been so fun. That's pretty critical, that the universe is ramping up like that when you've got a big event happening. You should start feeling like, I want to know as many details as you can give me. And I want to see it from as many angles as possible. There's nothing I don't care about relating to Dark Crisis in particular, but then the universe as a whole right now. Like, is there anything that, like, is lukewarm for you at the moment?
Not really, no.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't read every... I'm behind on some things, but, like...
Yeah. Well, and we get behind because we've got so much to read, and I don't have enough time in the day to actually read everything. But it's, as for, like, I'm bored with that, I don't think I've got anything like that.
No.
And it's, again, it's funny, this Dark Crisis, you think the term Dark Crisis is going to be this, kind of like just evil coming down, kind of, story. Kind of like I was thinking it'd be another version of like the death metal stuff. But they're not doing that. As you said before, he's kind of like a hope parasite.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it is that little tweak on us and completely flipping the script. Yeah, it's the Dark Crisis, but they're not using the death and destruction. They're not using their worst nightmares. They're using their greatest moments, their hope, the stuff that you really want to hold on to. And it's a kind of a really cool, just a concept for a Dark Crisis. I love this. And the more books we get, the more information we're getting on the Dark Crisis. I'm like, this is an epic. I'm really, really enjoying this thing. And any of the tie-ins, I'm jumping on those first. But then the everyday books are continue on. They're still hitting it out the park. I'm like, this stuff is awesome, man. I'm really loving my reading right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Like a human helicopter, the Flash rotates his body, rising faster, faster.
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you part of our show. RagingBullets@gmail.com is our email address. You prefer to contact us that way. RagingBullets.com is our show website, and that's where you're going to find out about all the new episode releases right as soon as they come out. That then feeds into Twitter. It feeds into our Facebook fan page. We also are proud to be part of really an amazing Facebook group community that has become an integral part of the show. And I want to thank everyone there who takes time to post, because our Speeding Bullets segment is totally driven by the group. And I want to thank the people that take time out of their busy schedules to say, hey, we're going to curate some news. I saw this article. I saw this topic that might be interesting. And thank you for doing that, because that segment being a more active part of the show is something that can only be done with your participation. Feel free to jump over there. Check out the articles that they're posting. Post your own if you find things that are out there that, like, guys, this is a thing that's on the table. You need to shout this out. I'd like to get your thoughts on it. That Speeding Bullets segment, I love that being a community segment now. I never saw it being that, and I love that it's kind of morphed into something that's really driven by our community, our listeners who have become an active part of that. So thank you for everyone that does that. It means a lot to us. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Seguin, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
Right now, we got a great deal, 20% off the various Mego DC heroes, Black Adam, Green Arrow, Batman Beyond, Deathstroke, Ra's al Ghul, and, of course, Shazam. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, always check out the deals of the week. They're always changing them out, and they're always special offers. They're always like right around 50% off, or some just different totals where you get a chance to save more money. These are two of my favorite this time around. 100 Bullets Omnibus Hardcover Volume 2, $125 regularly, 50% off, $62.50 for that tome. The Question by Dennis O'Neil and Dennis Cohen. $99 regularly, $99.99 regularly, 50% off, only $49.99. Thank you, DCB Service and InStockTrades.com, for supporting our show. Remember our spoiler warning contest. We'd love to have you participate. We're offering 3 prizes, which include a trade of your choice from the September 2022 previews. And we're also going to be offering you a spot on the show. All you got to do to enter, come up with your own spoiler warning, either one that you're going to record and send to us, which is our preference because we just love to hear your voice on our podcast. We'd love to have you be a part of it and immortalize you in that way. Or if it's not your comfort level, but you got a creative idea that you want on there, we want that too. Write it. Send it in to us. So we want you to participate based on your comfort level. We don't want anyone feeling like they can't be a part of it if it's not their thing. Have fun with this. This is meant to be fun. It's, this is something where basically the more participation we get, the more fun this is going to be. So doesn't matter what your idea is. There's no idea that's too wacky for this. If you've listened to this show for any period of time, trust me, there's no idea that's too wacky for this, but you've got until September 3rd to participate. And Jim, I want to mention once again, happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Our next episode, we are going to be back talking about Batman Catwoman number 12, the ending of that series, and Swamp Thing number 14, which is in season 2 now. We're going to talk about that issue and just our feeling on the season 2 of that particular series. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we've read with spoilers straight ahead.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think you're going to do it.
Jim, how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's our production.